So this is the penultimate chapter of the series, meaning that the next chapter is the last one. And on top of that, we also got a one-shot manga along with this chapter that's part of the new movie that's coming out next month called You're Next. And I haven't really talked about that movie yet on the channel, so I'll just talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. But coming into this chapter, we're seeing the confrontation between Izuku and Uraraka, and it doesn't really go down how you think it would, I guess. Or it just doesn't go down in a traditional sense, I suppose. But other than that, we're seeing this new mysterious villain type character. He was kind of introduced to us in the beginning of this final arc here, this epilogue arc. And the way that the characters were talking was kind of implying that this character was going to be like the next Shigaraki, like the next big, like all-for-one type level villain to spring up, you know, in their absence, kind of like in a power vacuum, or just an inevitability, given how quirks are. And we're finally finding out in this chapter what this character is all about. So it turns out that just like Eri and Shigaraki to a similar extent has a variant quirk, meaning that it's like a new quirk that came out of nowhere, doesn't come from his parents or any other hereditary means, and his family like locked him in his basement like his whole life because of it. So he's in a similar situation. Did you see those unfortunate stories about where like the families keep their children as prisoners? And we do get a small glimpse at what his quirk could be. It's like he can produce goo or black liquid or some kind of black material, kind of like venom almost, but not exactly. But I assume it's a pretty destructive quirk given the implications of how strong this guy could be. But yeah, that's as far as we get to see it, because, you know, he's quote-unquote saved before he's able to fully use his quirk. But when the war was happening, his family like abandoned him completely, and an explosion from the war like hit his house and destroyed the part that he was locked in, so he was able to leave. And that's what we saw at the beginning of this arc a couple chapters ago. And as he's like going down the street, he's like confused as to why people are smiling and helping out, seeing like the other students and whatnot helping with the cleanup of the post-war in the city. And it eventually gets to this point where this lady sees the new villain-esque boy and reaches out for him. And it's this gesture that essentially saves this guy, or this kid. Because this lady was also the same one that rejected little Shigaraki back after he had accidentally killed his family. Which, you know, ultimately led to him being taken under the wing by All For One. Although it was going to happen anyway, since it was part of his plan. But first, guys, let's talk about GamerSup's new Christmas Came Early sale, because you'll get a free gift with every tub purchase. Also, if you buy more tubs, you get more rewards. There's actually 5 tiers to unlock. And the first tier is this TKO Waifu Cup Shaker. It has this great aesthetic design, and you're going to have to get it now before it sells out completely. It also comes in this really cool t-shirt as well. Cool cracked GamerSup's logo in the front with the awesome TKO waifu in the back. And if you're looking for a tub to buy, check out the new flavor Nuclear Bombsicle by Casio. It tastes just like a bombsicle. This is already one of my favorite flavors. So guys, check the link in the description and make sure to use code BIGZ for 10% off. Thanks, guys. But it's just trying to show that this old lady has now come full circle in preventing the next big evil villain to come out by actually taking a stand and trying to help. And she's doing this because of what Izuku did in the war. Like, his actions inspired her here. So all of that talk throughout this final arc about how there could be the next Shigaraki, the next All For One out there just waiting to happen, that was happening just like it happened before with Shigaraki, except this time, because of how the war turned out with Izuku and his actions, just that alone has prevented the next big villain threat from happening, at least for the time being. Which I think is some great storytelling here from Horikoshi. I knew that there wasn't going to be some big grand fight with this guy, but I think it's just cool how Izuku passively took care of this big situation. And also showing how Izuku is like the new All Might, of course, right? How All Might inspired everyone. Now Izuku is going to be the one that inspires the next generation of not just heroes, but just of humanity. Because we saw in the previous chapter that that new Class 1 student was already inspired by Izuku. So we're going to continue to see that. And speaking of Izuku, he does come across Uraraka here, and she's really torn up about Toga and her dying, which is fully being confirmed in this chapter. Before it was kind of just alluded to, but she straight up says that she's dead, so we don't have to wonder about that anymore. But she's just upset at the circumstances around her death and how, due to the cameras being cut off, the world wasn't able to see her like selflessly save Uraraka because she gave her like her blood at the cost of her own life at the end of their battle because Uraraka had lost so much. So like Uraraka knows that she was ultimately good in the end, even though she led a very villainous life, but she's also upset about that as well. She's like, what if I had met her when she was a kid? Implying like, what if she became a hero instead of a villain? Because that's all that Toga really needed, was just the right guidance. And then Izuku relates to that over his battle with Shigaraki/Tenko. Because he thinks like, hey, what if I met Tenko as a kid? I could have potentially saved him as well, and not led him down the horrible path that he went. And that's pretty much where that sequence ends. I mean, they hold each other's hands and have a good cry, but that's it. There's no like grander heart-to-heart that I thought that they were going to have here. I thought, they were going to, trauma dump and then maybe go into expressing their feelings for each other, but I guess that's not going to happen, considering the next chapter is the last one, unless that's what Horikoshi wants. He wants the last chapter to be where they get together, or they just don't. Unless there's like a big time skip, kind of like in Bleach, and suddenly we just see characters in relationships and whatnot, but, I'm not really sure what he wanted to do with this, or maybe he just wants to leave it up in the air and it's like, yeah, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you won't know. Which is interesting, because I honestly don't know what he plans on doing if he doesn't, resolve this whole will they, won't they in the next chapter. But yeah, that's the end of that chapter, and your guess is as good as mine as to what Horikoshi is going to be able to fit in the final chapter, because there's a lot that needs to be resolved, and I guarantee that not all of it is. So I just hope he's able to give us enough, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, like I said, we got this one-shot manga that came out with the new chapter, and it's basically just going over, I guess, what is leading to the beginning of the movie? The new Your Next movie. It's like the students going out and I guess trying to help with the reconstruction of things after the first war, right? I'm pretty sure this is happening before the final war of the series. And they suddenly get attacked by like these new heteromorphic looking villains, to which they take care of easily, and then the sequence kind of just ends with the new villains like looking at this video of All Might pointing to Izuku after he defeated All For One. And the name of this new villain is Dark Might, and he looks like All Might, but he wears like this leather mask that kind of looks like Mankind from WWF, but also kind of looks like Spandam from One Piece. And as for the synopsis of the movie, it's apparently taking place after the Paranormal Liberation War, where Deku and his classmates join together to stop a mysterious giant fortress and a man who resembles the former symbol of peace. And I watched the trailer, and that's pretty much what I can take away from it. I don't know why he looks like All Might, but All Might has something to do with this movie more so than this Dark Might guy just looking like him. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about this chapter and where the final chapter is headed, and what you think about this new movie in the comments. I think we'll probably get some spoilers as to what happens in this movie next week. So I'll make a video about that. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. And have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.